It began with screams over the waves. In the year 678 AD, the Byzantine fleet faced certain doom. The Arab navy surrounded them in the blue waters of the Aegean, hundreds of ships forming a circle of death. And then, from the decks of the Byzantine ships, something impossible happened. Streams of liquid fire shot through the air. It clung to the water, igniting everything it touched. Men jumped overboard, only to burn as the sea itself caught flame. The Arabs fled in panic, their ships consumed by fire that refused to die. The world had just witnessed the birth of Greek fire, a weapon so fearsome that even centuries later, its formula remains one of history's greatest secrets. For nearly 700 years, the Byzantine Empire guarded this weapon as if it were divine. It wasn't just a tool of war. It was the fire of the gods. Some said it was given to Emperor Constantine by an angel. Others whispered it was stolen from ancient alchemists in Egypt. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. Whoever controlled Greek fire controlled the seas. It was used again and again against invaders, rebels, and even crusaders. Chronicles describe how it burned not just wood and flesh, but time itself, because no one could recreate it. When Constantinople finally fell in 1453, the formula vanished with it, forever. So what was Greek fire? How could a weapon from the 7th century burn on water, something modern science can barely replicate? Historians, chemists, and engineers have spent centuries trying to answer that question. Some believe it was a mixture of naphtha, sulfur, resin, and quicklime. Others claim it contained petroleum, a natural oil that could float and burn. But no theory truly explains its terrifying behavior. Greek fire could ignite on contact with water, and once lit, could not be extinguished. It stuck to skin and hulls, burning until nothing remained. Even sand and vinegar couldn't stop it. The Byzantines carried it in bronze tubes, siphons, mounted on ships like primitive flamethrowers. When fired, it roared like thunder, leaving trails of smoke and flame that terrified even the bravest warriors. To the enemies of Byzantium, it was witchcraft. To the Byzantines, it was salvation. Records from the 10th century say only a handful of families knew the true formula. The penalty for revealing it was death. They mixed it in secrecy, behind locked doors in the imperial palace, while soldiers guarded the recipe with their lives. The weapon was stored in clay jars, bronze tubes, even hand grenades called hierosophones, thrown from towers or walls, bursting into fire upon impact. Every detail of its creation was wrapped in mystery. The ingredients were hidden, the process was hidden. Even the locations where it was produced were erased from maps. It wasn't just chemical secrecy, it was psychological warfare. The historian Anna Komnene, daughter of an emperor, once wrote, "This fire is made by the will of God. It cannot be put out by water. It burns even upon the sea, as if feeding upon it." She believed it was divine punishment, a flame reserved only for the enemies of God. And maybe that belief made it even more terrifying. Centuries later, during the Crusades, Western knights tried to recreate it. They failed. When they captured Byzantine engineers, the mixtures exploded before they could decipher them. Even in the Renaissance, alchemists from Venice to Baghdad searched for the secret. None succeeded. Modern chemists tried to reverse engineer it, combining crude oil, sulfur, resin, calcium phosphide. The results? Dangerous, yes, but never the same. No one has ever created a fire that behaves like the one described in Byzantine records. It's as if the real formula defied nature itself. But perhaps the real mystery isn't what Greek fire was. It's how such knowledge appeared and then disappeared so completely. By the 7th century, most of Europe had fallen into darkness. Empires collapsed, libraries burned, ancient science forgotten. And yet, in one hidden corner of the world, someone engineered a weapon that rivaled modern chemistry. Who were they? Could they have inherited knowledge from an older lost civilization? Some historians think so. There are theories that Greek fire was the descendant of earlier Egyptian or Persian liquid fires, mixtures described in papyri and scrolls long before Byzantium. Others connect it to the alchemical traditions of Alexandria, before the Great Library burned. If that's true, Greek fire wasn't an invention. It was a memory, a spark of forgotten science carried through the ages. Imagine this. A scribe in Alexandria, centuries before Christ, records a formula combining oil and stone powder that reacts violently with water. The scroll survives the fall of the city, carried east by scholars. Generations later, a Byzantine engineer rediscovers it and turns it into a weapon that changes history. A single line of knowledge, flickering through time. A flame passed from hand to hand. A fire that refuses to die. When Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, Greek fire was used one last time. Eyewitnesses say the sky turned red, the final blaze of an empire that had stood for 1,000 years. But after that, the weapon vanished. The recipe, the masters, the knowledge, gone. Some believe it was destroyed deliberately to keep it from falling into enemy hands. Others believe the secret was taken by monks who fled north, buried deep in the monasteries of Mount Athos. And there are legends that the fire still burns, hidden in sealed amphorae beneath the ruins of the palace. No one knows for sure. Today, scientists can burn metals, create thermite, and design weapons that melt steel. But still, no one has fully recreated Greek fire. The mystery remains unsolved, and perhaps it should, because maybe the secret of Greek fire wasn't just chemical. Maybe it was philosophical. The Byzantines believed the flame was divine because it symbolized something eternal. The light of knowledge, the spark of human will, the refusal to surrender even when the world falls into darkness. Maybe that's why the secret vanished, because some knowledge isn't meant to be used, only remembered. When we look back at Greek fire, we don't just see a weapon. We see proof that human ingenuity has always burned brighter than fear. That even in the darkest centuries, there were minds who dreamed of harnessing the impossible. And maybe that's the real fire that never dies,